Again, the thing about email is that it's only as useful as the list that you have. So you can have the most well thought out, um, like psychologically conversion driven email, but if you're sending it out to one person, like even if that person books, like the results are limited.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
So what's up, everybody? Mike Hickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. I have a friend of mine I've been friends with for a very long time, Miss Carly Craig. Welcome to the podcast.
I am so excited to be here with you. And honestly, it's amazing to see everything that you're accomplishing and all of your students are accomplishing as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Very proud of what our students and clients are able to achieve with a little bit of support. Now you are, I wouldn't even say self-described. I would say quite like regarded as a email expert. I mean, you built a 7-figure company around email marketing, which is really cool. So I want to dive into that because email is a hugely slept on marketing technique for any small businesses. But first, I want to ask you, what is your experience kayaking in the ocean?
Oh, well, let's see. When did we do that? We went to San Diego, 8 years ago and went kayaking in the ocean. And I didn't realize that I get seasick even in a kayak. And I was the only person who wasn't in like a double kayak with someone else. So I was by myself. And then I just had this sense of like impending death, I think, for the 2 hours that we were out on the ocean. But the
Didn't you
best
flip
part of
too?
yes, yeah. So the best part of that was after we did this like 2-hour tour or whatever in the ocean. I don't know how long it was. It felt like years. Um, when we were coming back in, you were supposed to like ride the wave in a certain way, and apparently I did that wrong too. And then I remember you saw it, right, Mike? You were like standing on the beach
I'm
when
pretty
this
sure I was there.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the wave took me like straight up and it's like slammed down into the ocean and then like flew up in the air and I flew out of it and I haven't kayaked since actually.
That's surprising. That's surprising.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to get that out of the way first because that was super fun. Now you have a crazy work ethic and actually a really interesting like start into like the professional world. So,
Mm.
and I this is like I think a huge credibility builder. Like we have 90% male audience here. So for you, you actually worked when you were 21 years old or so, you got into like logistics, trucking logistics.
Yep, that's
How did you get
right.
into that? And like, how did you deal with that in like that was probably a 100% male dominated field at the time.
Yes, I was the only business owner, at least in the facilities that I worked out of, that was female. And I mean, everyone was probably at least 20 years older than me as well, which added to that. But I actually started in my late teens as an executive assistant at a pretty big shipping company in the US, and they moved me into outside sales pretty quickly. And I realized that I didn't love that part of it, which is funny because as a business owner, like you still have to do sales. So thought I was going into something different. But essentially, I left the business, started my own entity that then could contract through that business that I used to work for. So I still had to go through the process of, putting in a bid for my territory in a couple different areas. I had territories in Orange County and in LA. Um, and I would have a number of drivers in each location, 7, 8 drivers, and 7 days a week. I actually myself went to the Compton location because that was the more difficult of the two. But 7 days a week would go into Compton with all my drivers. We'd sort packages, and then my guys would go out and deliver every day into the zip codes that I had contracts in. So did that for about a year when I realized that the margins were not great, and ended up leaving, working a place where I actually ended up meeting you, Mike. But yeah, that was my first foray into entrepreneurship.
That's wild. What did you like? What were some of the big lessons that you learned working in that type of industry?
Whew.
'Cause obviously that built like the foundation of your like work ethic and kind of your trajectory in your career. So like, yeah, what were like some of the big takeaways from that experience?
I think that I mean, now looking back, it's that I just didn't have the information, or like I didn't have the experience that I needed to run that business really well. Like, it was fine. It was never gonna be anything amazing because that type of business, you just don't have the margins for it. But I realized that I actually needed to have that experience, and I ended up gaining that through then going through years of coaching. So I had an executive coach for 2 years. I had all sorts of coaches. I have 4 different coaches right now. But essentially, during that time, I didn't have anybody to help me. I didn't have a degree. I hadn't gone to university, and there was just so much that I didn't know. And you even like look online at the stuff that like it says that you should do, like build your business plan, do this, do that. And that was really not helpful information at all. But anyway, I learned a lot because I made a lot of mistakes. And I guess it was like a really good first lesson in failure, because although the business didn't like fail, we did shut it down because it wasn't making money, and moved on from the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And then the following 4 years or so, you were a workaholic and worked like 70 hours a week.
More than 4 years. So the last 8 years definitely have been like that. I mean, I had a child 3.5 years ago, and I didn't take a single day off. As soon as I got home from the hospital, I literally walked into my office and took a call. Like, insane.
Yeah, I mean, we were hanging out in Whistler a couple of years ago, and it's like beautiful day. We're just like walking in the village. Like, I gotta take this meeting.
I actually remember exactly who I was talking to on that call, and it was a very important meeting that, you know, looking back now, I probably wouldn't have taken that day, but it was important.
Yeah. So now you don't work as all. I mean, even in
Mm,
the last couple of years, you kind of change your routine from working like crazy. You worked with same business coach I'm working with right now, but you kind of like found the way to transition from working just brute force hours to like being smarter with people and systems and time. What was that transition, and like
mm.
explain that before and after, and how you managed that, how you navigated that?
I think the biggest discovery for me was just letting go of things. I had to hold on to everything so tightly, and so, like, if I didn't do it, it wasn't gonna be done properly, or it wasn't gonna be done as well. And I had to let go of those things, still making sure that they were really high quality, but remove myself from them so that I could work on the bigger picture. Honestly, sadly worked this way up until only like 6 months ago. And as you know, I sold my agency in December, but I had so much so figured out how to let go of stuff in my agency that I processed myself out in 2022. So I had my team totally running it all last year without me. And then instead of enjoying that, I went and took a job as a COO at another business, and I worked my ass off there, and probably killed myself more there than even in my own business, because that's just who I am. Must impress people. But yeah, so right now I'm actually working on not really working on a new business. I'm writing a book, and I'm still working on transitioning the new owners at the agency. But my mindset has definitely shifted.
Yeah. You're writing a second book.
Second book, yes.
Yeah. Um, Now it's like the Elon Musk thing. I don't know if you read his like the Walter Isaacson biography or listened to it or anything, but he's like, it's very evident that he like craves pain. So if, like,
Mm.
things are going too well in his life, he will like find something to like mess up. Like his life was going great in like Tesla and SpaceX, and then he's like, let's buy Twitter. It's like inject pain
Mhm.
into his life. Is that like, do you feel that?
I think what it was for me is that, I was comfortable in chaos and it fueled a lot of growth, and so anytime things felt like they were going too well, it's not like I wanted the pain, but it was like, "I can handle more, like, give me more, like, let's fucking go." But I now have realized that, that's not the way that I want to live my life, and I realized went a little deeper, had a lot of therapy, and realized why I was doing that. But, I get it. I get it, and I still find myself wanting to jump into all these opportunities, like proposed co-founder role here, there, like, writing the next book, and I have to start, just being more in alignment with what I truly want for my career. So, it doesn't allow for me to do all that stuff anymore.
I think that's why having coaches is important so that you can like allow yourself to have chapters or periods or sections of your life where you are working like that. But as long as like you're working towards like a specific outcome with an end in sight, it makes working like that a little bit more manageable in the short term.
Yes, absolutely.
How did you get into email marketing? Because like you were working with me at another company where we weren't really doing email marketing. We are doing like agency work kind of stuff, a little bit of business coaching. And then you all of a sudden were a co-founder of an email marketing agency.
Yeah, so what was beautiful about where we worked is that, those guys were on it with their own coaching, and so, through learning from Scaling Up and the Gazelles coaches, learning about EOS, I found my knack in operations, and so I met my last co-founder randomly in a co-working space, and
Wasn't it like in
my
Medellin?
yeah, I was in Colombia with 3 of our other coworkers that I lived with. Um, so we met in that co-working space and it was like brief. I didn't even know what he did, nothing like that. We became friends on Facebook weirdly. And then the day after I left that business that we used to work for, he put up a post looking for a co-founder with an expertise in operations. And I was like, oh, maybe that's me. And I didn't know anything about email marketing, but that's not what he was looking for. So I kind of just fell into it because I was never supposed to be the email marketer. I was never supposed to be the like guru or the CEO or any of that. But
You were
very
just gonna be the
quickly,
operator.
I was just going to be the operator exactly. Uh, but turns out I was really good at it, and he didn't really want to do it. So I ended up being the lead strategist, and like I don't know, less than 6 months, took over as CEO probably the following year, and um, gosh, we grew from I think it really wasn't even an agency when I started with him. He was probably doing like $3,000 to $5,000 a month in revenue, so freelancing essentially. And in our best year, we did a little over 200,000 a month. So it was pretty significant. And then yeah, we got to sell in December. So
Yeah. Congrats on the exit. That's a
thanks,
huge accomplishment. First of many,
thanks.
I'm sure. By the way,
I
do
hope
you want to
so.
co-found? Do you want a ops manager role?
Well, talk to me in 6 months when my sabbatical is done.
Gotcha. Sounds good. What do you like about email?
Uh, I like email because we're dealing mainly with retention. Um, to be honest, like email marketing is very overlooked and it's actually one of the uh, easier marketing channels. So, um, I think of email marketing in a couple of ways. So, one, there's like if somebody comes to your site and you want to continue to talk to that person if you can't retarget them with ads or whatever it is, I don't know, but you want to capture their email address, right? And then if you've worked with that person before, if they came in through your CRM or if they came in through your pop-up, and maybe you had something that was like um, a guide to color psychology and what to choose for your new living room or something like that, then you know that those people who just came in through that channel are super interested, and then you're just trying to um, actually acquire that customer. So there's like a little like helper with acquisition. So these people already got to your site somehow, and it wasn't through email marketing most likely, right? So you've done the hard part of getting them to your website. Um,
So we're not talking
or
about buying a cold email list, right? We're just
no,
talking about nurturing your current, past, and prospective clients.
yes, yeah, exactly. So cold email is a whole nother beast, but we didn't. I mean, I know cold email because it was our number one lead source at our agency, but we actually did um, more of the back end retention stuff and like kind of like that the acquisition helper, which is just like nurturing those new folks, prospective customers. But yeah, so there's nurturing the prospective customers, and then there's retention. So hitting the right people, the right message, the right time. I'm sure you speak about this always, but it's a beautiful thing about email is the segmentation. And if you set up your automations properly, not even having to think about following up with somebody, which is awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, from the simplest sense, like s- put your the shoes on of a tradesperson who is running a business. Say they're doing between 500,000 and a million a year, and they want to get an email marketing. They don't have a huge list. Maybe they have like 500 to 500 people on the email list. Currently, just sitting in Mailchimp or Active Campaign or something like that, or their CRM. Right? How can someone like that, like, how should they think about email marketing?
Okay. So I actually wrote down some ideas for this, and my first question is: are people still door knocking? That's still happening regularly, right?
Yeah, they should be.
Okay. And so I don't know what those flyers look like that they're dropping off, but um, you could add a QR code to those and maybe do something like give away a painting of so many square feet or something like that. Or something that is enticing enough for them to scan the QR code, take you maybe to a landing page on the site, and then give their email and hopefully phone number, so that you can follow up with them after you've like physically gone and dropped that
Flyer.
flyer off. Yeah.
So
Did
just
you
so
have
the first
something?
step is to, like, to simplify that is just like email lead generation. Just like find a way to bring new leads into your
Hmm.
ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. And so, as you know, my ex-husband owned a painting company, and so I gosh, went door knocking with him. I even painted a few places. But if I was, helping him with something like this, I would say that adding that QR code and trying to get more information from them would be like a really good way to start. And you have to give them something to make them want to give you their email address, phone number, and you can try lots of different things. Maybe it's a giveaway, maybe it's like one of those guides like on color psychology. Like what is something that somebody actually wants and they're willing to
A
to
PDF
trade.
guide is a great idea, right? It's a free lead magnet. You can provide a ton of value, and if you
Hmm.
don't have ideas, you can use ChatGPT to ask, like, "Hey, what are some ideas to make a free giveaway guide?" And then you just got to
Yes.
write it.
Yes, exactly. And ChatGPT can even write it for you.
Yep.
But yeah, so there's that aspect. If you already have a bunch of email addresses in a CRM, I would start sending them newsletters, probably not that frequently because of the type of business, like once per month, perhaps. So again, with my ex-husband, we actually did have a newsletter for him that we would send out monthly. And we went really personal with it. So there's a couple ways that you can go. I chose this way because I thought it was most impactful. And it was every month we would send to his list a life update. And it would be like usually a picture of him with like maybe me and our son, or something that was going on. Maybe he won an award or whatever, to more personally connect with people. We'd kind of keep it short and sweet. There would be information at the bottom if they wanted an estimate or if they wanted to contact him or go to social media. But essentially we were just trying to create that connection, because a lot of service providers right now when they're sending out these newsletters, they're like, I don't even open them because I'm not really interested in the information. So like, do I really want like a guide on color psychology in my inbox? Like maybe not. Maybe if it came in a flyer, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I've been thinking about like painting my living room. Maybe I want to see that, but it's just not great value, and it's kind of hard to find consistent value for a service-based type of business in my opinion.
Yeah.
But maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's something that you could even include on uh, mold and paint, or, but I honestly
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah,
But
I think there's enough potential like opportunities for education that like that's kind of what, the expert or the contractor needs to help figure out.
yeah, but then there's a personal aspect which helps them connect to you, and when they think of painting, somebody talks about painting. It's not like, "Oh, I know this painting company." It's like, "Oh, you have to meet this sweet, man. He lives in my neighborhood, and this is what his wife does, and, oh,
Yeah.
their son just turned 4," and it's like they're recommending a friend at that point and not just some random person who
Like a
sends
faceless
educational
company
content.
like
Yes.
Premier Painting, whatever, like with no face to it.
Yeah, so that's the route that we took, and he had lots of positive, reaction from that. People would email back and be like, "Oh, like, so cool. I also did this thing," whatever, and would just, like, wanna have conversations with him, or when they talk to him, like, there's actually stuff that comes up in conversation, and they feel good about it because they know so much about him, whatever the case may be, but, I really liked that approach.
I think I think the personal aspect of it, the personal approach is a pretty slept on opportunity that a lot of people don't do, right? Like on your website, like that's one of the first things I do when I'm looking for trades or I'm looking for a service or something. I'll go to their website and I'll go see if I can figure out who owns the company. And if
Mhm.
I can't find like an owner, I can't find a name or something like that, there's just like it's just a faceless corporation. I typically either won't reach out to them or just like will feel a lot more skeptical.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Something like this is so personal. So make it easier for them to make it personal,
Yeah.
I guess.
So monthly newsletter, personal information, life update, little call to action, some valuable information, doing
Yeah.
it about monthly. Um, what what else? So in email marketing, actually, there's two types of content, right? There's like, and I mean maybe there's more. You can correct me, but there's like um valuable information, and then there's like calls to action. I'm just getting the
Mhm.
terminology wrong, right? Um, offers. So it's like valuable information or offers. How would you describe the difference and like how would you use them each strategically?
Um, so if the email is centered around an offer, I think what you're asking is,
Goodwill. There's what the word I'm looking for. Goodwill.
goodwill. Haven't heard that one in a while, but yes. So, um, yeah, so going to the offer, let's say that that is more immediate action. Like you want somebody to book a call today, you want them to get a quote now. That's exactly what the call to action is like you want them to do something now. So I might use that if, let's say, you know somebody is getting ready to book their painting, and gosh, what situation would you use this in? And you have, I don't know, 2 weeks to close them, or I don't know how long the life cycle is, from talking to somebody, getting
Okay,
them
so
on.
after they've given an estimate.
Sure, sure, after an
Yeah.
estimate. Let's say the average life cycle to closing them is 4 weeks. Maybe you haven't heard from them, they've fallen off, and you have an automation set up where an email sends out to them. Hopefully, there would be a lot more leading through those 4 weeks, but let's say on week 5, excuse me, you send them, like a spring sale this weekend, if you sign up this weekend only, and that's one of those like offers, call to action, like that like you're losing your chance to get these folks, and so then you give them like 10% off if they book that weekend or something like that. Whereas like the goodwill might be, um, you've done an estimate and you're helping them to learn how to prepare for painters to come in, whether it's you or not. And maybe you send them a guide on like, oh, make sure you do this. And people often miss this. Or, when you're, the word I'm thinking of is sussing, but like, that's not the word I want. Whenever you're figuring out which painting company to go with, make sure to ask these questions. And, there are like lots of valuable things that you can send them there through that process after the estimate that can be automated too, that are just helpful and goodwill, and maybe even throw in some of that personal stuff in that automation as well.
Mhm. Okay. So, I mean, going back to the average contractor who has like a, small list. So, use some email acquisition techniques, whether you're going door to door or you're using Facebook ads, like make sure you're capturing that email and adding them to your list. Should they be thinking about segmenting the lists at all? Or like other than estimated and not estimated? Like, should we do any list segmentation, or should we just like, if it's that small, and I'm saying small at like 500 or 1,000 because like email lists can get, just for people listening, email lists can get to like 50,000, 100,000, million. So
Yeah.
500 to 1,000 is quite a small list.
Yes.
Should they be segmenting?
Yes, if they have the data for it though, but I'm imagining that this person may not have any information in their CRM to say, anything more than like, "Oh, I did this estimate," or maybe they don't even know, if they've done an estimate for a person or if they're a past client, or maybe it's all only past clients, like,
They could probably
um
they could probably split up estimated versus not estimated,
okay,
and
that's a good
clients
start.
versus not clients.
Yeah, so depending on the CRM that you're using, if you start doing these legion tactics, like I would start bucketing them. So if you are taking out the flyers and going door knocking, then like put those guys into a certain list so that you know that, okay, these are all the people that I door knocked. And I mean, you could even go as far as like changing the URLs on the landing pages for, I don't know, specific neighborhoods, even if you wanted to. Although I'm pretty sure you're not going to go that specific. But like, let's say you're managing in different cities or something like that, then you can change that URL for different cities. So then even if it was a flyer that brought them in, you now know which city that specific flyer came from, and you
Mhm.
can bucket them like that. So there are lots of um, ways that you can segment those people out, but it starts with how they come into the CRM, because after they come in, unless they're taking specific actions and telling you who they are, like let's say they're filling out like a survey or something on your site that integrates with the CRM, then it's a little bit more difficult to segment them out. But absolutely, the more information you can get and put in those profiles, the better that your messaging will be to them.
Mhm. But probably like this is a case of like done is better than perfect, right? Like
Yes,
sending emails is
absolutely.
better than yeah, not sending
Yes,
emails.
yeah, totally. And so going back to the personal thing, like it doesn't matter who they are on your list, like you can still send out that monthly. Like if you have never sent them an email ever, it's like my first update of here's what's going on in my life right now.
Mhm.
Da
Okay.
da da. Yeah.
So someone listens to this, they start getting into um a rhythm of sending out a monthly newsletter, right? They get the workflow, they're writing it, they're getting it, sending out every month, and to all their new leads and everyone they haven't done work with, as well as their past clients. What other emails slash strategies should they be incorporating in around those newsletters, or in addition to those newsletters, to help drive business?
Yeah. So going back to the like my example of 5 weeks after estimate, if they're not closing, that's a good opportunity to add offers in. And I don't know how, like, obviously somebody would have to be operating for many years, I think, to be following up with somebody, let's say, like 5 years after they painted the exterior of their home. But that's also something that 5 years later you could have that follow up.
It could also be
But
like
some
interior opportunities, right? On like bedrooms and
absolutely.
decks and fences and cabinets,
Totally. Yeah, so there's all of those, like, win back or
cross sells.
cross sale type of campaigns depending on the work that you've done for them. So again, going back to segmentation, if you did the exterior and not the interior, if you can have that tagged in your CRM and then that's a really great opportunity. If you can have automation set up for reviews after you do a job, so if that triggers to ask for reviews across all of your different platforms, whatever. If there's anything else you want to ask of them, if you have a referral program, um, let's see what else.
What
Yes.
types of CRM? What type of CRM should people be using? Like, what would you recommend? Not even CRM, rather, email delivery program.
Yeah, I will get back to you on that so you can put it in the notes, but I am most familiar with the e-commerce based CRMs,
Mhm.
which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Not that they wouldn't work, but
Might
I
be
mean
overkill.
integrate. Yeah, well, yes, might be overkill, and also like integrations are really important. So sometimes if you're using a specific CRM, like you might even just be able to use the email program there, like not saying that like going somewhere else would be like significantly better, or even would have the integration that you need. So it kind of depends, but I mean, as long as you can segment, and
Yeah.
I'll think of a couple other like main like qualities that an ESP should have, but
I mean, I
uh
use Active Campaign, and I think that would
okay.
probably be sufficient for. I mean, it might be overkill, but I think that would be decent for most clients who want to take email
Yeah.
seriously.
So what I like is whenever an ESP can also do SMS, and then if it can trigger um, other events as well. So one that I've been using a lot more lately is direct mail. So you know all about this, like actually physically sending a postcard in the mail. And so there are lots of ESPs that now allow for you to do that. And there are like integrations with companies like Postpilot that can trigger a postcard with specific information being sent at a specific time. So say after somebody gets their house painted, like you want to send them something, I don't know, a month later, thanking them in the mail or whatever it is, you can actually have that automated too. But you can also send like internal reminders, probably just with your CRM as well. But I think phone calls are still really important. I'm assuming that you probably teach people that too, but
Yeah, especially for follow-ups, right? Follow-ups are really
mhm,
important for getting clients to book in. Like, I think you should call your stack of estimates, like open estimates, every single week at minimum. However many
mhm,
that is. But I guess what I'm talking about with you, more specifically is prospects, people who we've never done business with, who've just like opted in, or we've gotten their email from somewhere somehow or another, or past clients who've done work with us in the past. Right. And so optimizing that opportunity. And it sounds like getting them, like the big thing is getting them really familiar with you personally through something like your
mhm.
newsletter, and then um having some sort of segmentation so you can like make a specific offer to a specific group at a specific time that's like relevant and time sensitive and makes sense for where they are in the journey. Like that's important.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Interesting. What is the craziest result that you've seen from an email? I know mostly it's been e-commerce, but like what have you seen from like various email campaigns before?
um, the thing about email is that it's only as useful as the list that you have. So you can have the most well thought out, um, like psychologically conversion driven email, but if you're sending it out to one person, like even if that person books, like the results are limited. So I mean, the craziest things I have seen are with like, working with massive brands that have a list of like 8 million people, and we send an email that isn't even like, not saying that they weren't good, but like that aren't even anything amazing, and they'll generate, $1 million in revenue in like an hour or something like that. But like
Thing.
that's the list that we're dealing with, right?
So $1 million plus revenue from a single email. But yeah, it's all about the list that you have and how you use the data,
Yep.
right? How about time management? So everything that we ask contractors to do, or they're asked to do, it all adds up, right? It gets like harder and harder because it's like, hey, should I do this or should I do that? Should I go door knocking? Should I do email? Should I do whatever? And it's like, because it's all on them, it just becomes overwhelming and nothing ends up getting done, right? So where should this sit on a list of priorities? And what are some ways they could leverage like tools or people to get this stuff done, um, more frequently or quicker or easier?
Hmm. Do you guys offer email marketing services?
We do not. No.
Okay. Okay. Wow. You really should. Um, because email can be a beast to learn if you have a million other things going on. So if you have somebody that you trust that you can go to, obviously that's ideal, especially if they have expertise in your industry. So this is me recommending to Mike to start an email sector.
We aren't an agency.
um,
We're a coaching business. So we try to limit the DFY, the done for you services.
I
Mhm.
see. Okay. Well, where this would
Painters listen,
land.
start an email marketing company for painters.
Yes. Okay. So where this would fall, I mean, it's hard to say without knowing like what exactly everything else is that they have on their plate, but I would say an easy thing is if you're already going door knocking and doing that stuff, add the QR code at least to get them to your site. Add a pop-up on your site so you're capturing those emails. It doesn't have to be as deep as like creating the guide, like just do a giveaway for something that is compelling for somebody to sign up. Like, don't waste the other effort that you're already putting in by just not having this pop up on your site. And then I would say if you have emails that you're not sending to people, at least do the like personalized monthly email. It doesn't have to be designed. It doesn't have to look pretty. It literally can be plain text and take a few minutes to do, send out to everyone. You can drop a photo in it, whatever makes sense for you. But like those are some really easy things to do now that you don't need anybody's help with. Um,
I really like that actually, just to like marinate on that for a moment. The value and the power in just sending a regular email with like
mhm,
standard like Times New Roman text, throw in an image, it's from you, from your personal email
yep,
address, and just like simply written without graphics, without well designed or whatever, like that, it's authentic. And
yes,
people are more likely to open it and read it because it looks like a personal email that was sent from one person to another.
yep. Yeah, exactly. So it might even be of your benefit to not have gone and had somebody design it and make it look all beautiful. And um, I'd love if some people actually tried that and then told you what their results look like. I would love to know if anybody out there is listening. Like, please try it and let Mike know how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I would say like yeah, time management wise, if you can at least get that monthly email out, it's going to hit everybody on the list regardless of where they should be segmented, and it'll be one of the more powerful things that you can do.
I
So,
mean, if you do it once a month, like maybe what 30 minutes once a month.
mhm, yep. Get the pop up on your site so that you're actually getting people's emails, and if you're door knocking, add the QR code so that they go to your site.
Or in your
Those are my
flyers or whatever, like you're sending out, just have a QR code.
yeah. That's my
So going back a little bit, before we started talking about email, you kind of like shifted your, not your work ethic, but your time management from working on everything all the time and having maximum control to actually letting go. And I think a lot of people who listen to this do have trouble letting go because maybe one time or another they've been burned by, like, they had a painter who ended up like screwing up a job and they had to go back and fix it and everyone's mad they lost money, blah blah blah. So how did you go about letting yourself relinquish control to other people on your team? And did it go well, or like what did you have to do to make that transition successful?
I would say overall it went well. Like there were some times that faltered a little bit and it wasn't always great, but I think the biggest thing that I did that allowed me to trust people more was changing my hiring tactics. So actually understanding what I was looking for in my employees, like knowing what my core values were, knowing how to screen for those in people, and then just genuinely being able to trust them and then hand off work to them. And we also did it in a very processed way so that everyone, whenever you scale, everyone needs to be doing activities in the same way, all right? Your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, so that you're not having chaos. And if they need help, they go to this other person who has the exact same job. They're doing the activities the exact same way. Um, you then have these processes written out. So if it's not you that's monitoring them, so let's say you have a manager, the manager knows exactly what they're doing. People need to know what is expected of them. You need to know what you expect from them, because if you don't have that written out, the chances are that it's probably wildly different what those expectations are. Um, I think that was something really important that I learned, is that because I have such high standards, I assume that everyone else sees things the same way that I do and should manage things in the same way. Um, and last thing, I learned that their incentives have to align with the outcomes that I want. Like, it seems like these are very simple things, like core values, having standard procedures, and having the proper incentives, but, like, all of those things are really important.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
incentive thing is like largely slept on. A lot of people just bring on team or employees paying them hourly with no incentive to the ideal outcome. Like if
yep.
you pay your painter just hourly, like they're gonna come up with mistakes and send you all the problems. But if you bonus them on job quality, a 5-star review, and finishing on time and on budget, like all of a sudden your problems are gonna disappear.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know if you promote this, but what that makes me think is like these people are probably the ones who are building the relationships with these homeowners as well. And if they're staying with you for a long time, or even if they're not staying with you, if they have some sort of like, I don't know, referral bonus, even when they leave, if they bring you business later on. But yeah, incentives, very, very important.
Yeah.
There's a quote. Who is it? Charlie Munger. Show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. Is that what it is?
I haven't heard
I
that
think
one
something
before, but it
like
makes a
that.
lot of sense. I mean, I would
Yeah,
say incentivize for the outcome that you want, so I think that's
same thing.
exactly the same, this word salad a little bit. So, Carly, you just exited from your first business. What's next?
So as I said, writing another book right now, and that's just something that was already in the works prior to the exit, and I don't see any reason not to move forward with it whenever I have the time that I do. But in reality, if we're talking like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like I finally feel like I've reached a place where I'm not like struggling in like fight or flight in some way, and a lot of that wasn't even to do with like finances necessarily. It was just something that I personally had to get out of. So at the moment, I'm now kind of shifting my identity a little bit, and I think I'm actually going to be leaving the e-commerce industry. Not 100% where I'm going next with that, uh, but I've started doing things like taking dance lessons, and I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in
That was
July.
exciting.
I've never done a real hike in my life, and I'm climbing Kilimanjaro in July. Um, so yeah, that like multi-day rafting trips, never done that either. Hopefully it's not like the kayaking trip.
You're gonna go do, gross grind a few times?
Yes, absolutely. I actually am gonna go next week for my first time to the grouse grind. Um, but yeah, so I mean, what's next for me is just like rediscovering who I am, because it all was built so much out of like this personality that I developed of like being the overachiever and that crazy work ethic. And it was like if I didn't work like that, then there was no worth to who I am. And so it's been really interesting to come out of that old mindset and discovering this new person. Yeah, I'm
I mean, you wouldn't have had the
very
opportunity to rediscover yourself and become this new person if you didn't accomplish that in the first place.
absolutely. I would, and then I wouldn't have any accomplishments either. So
You know
whenever
what?
you,
Winnie the Pooh, I just reading the Winnie the Pooh book yesterday with my girls, and, at the start of it, they're, like, just sitting down doing nothing, and they're like, doing nothing at all is really boring, right? Like, whatever, they didn't say boring, whatever the word, like, doing nothing at all isn't very fun, and then they go through this whole day where they, like, help everybody out, and they do this thing, and they build Eeyore's house, and they blah, 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 do all this stuff, and at the end of it, they're, like, sitting back down in the same room, just, like, doing nothing again, and they're like, doing nothing feels a lot better after helping all day.
oh my gosh, it's so philosophical, Winnie the Pooh. I didn't realize.
It is philosophical. He's
Mhm.
got some good stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm so grateful for that time where I didn't think of anything else and I was just in the grind, because I'm so grateful now to have the space to be able to do this. One thing that I was looking at the other day, have you heard of the four burners theory?
No.
Okay. So I don't remember who it's by, but basically it's like imagine four burners on a stove, and one of them is like family, one of them's friends, fitness, career. And basically the author, the creator of this theory says like pick two. Like pick two of these that you want to advance in, or else everything stays very general. And so it's like if you really want to level up in a certain area, like you have to give up other things in order to do that. And I really, really feel that now, even going like really leaning hard into my fitness side of things, because I know that if I was also focusing on the career side, I couldn't do it because I have family. I'm a single mom. And that's one of them that is non-negotiable. So it's like I had to choose right now which one I was leaning towards. And for I think most of the people listening to this, it's probably career. But I think it's like it's okay to understand that not everything else is going to be perfect or maybe where you want it to be if you're like really focused on leveling up a certain area.
Yeah. Very philosophical end of this episode.
Yes.
That was great. Well, hey, Carly, thanks for coming on and good luck climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. That's
Thank
going to
you.
be super fun and rewarding. And I hope to do that one day.
I'll bring you with me.
All right. Sell that to Amanda. All right, Amanda, I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro with Carly.
Carly and her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks, Carly.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.